All right, we are live. How are we doing, everyone? Let me know how everyone is doing out there. Let me know how it sounds. And yeah, how are we all doing? I can see a few people in the chat already. I'm having some weird static buzzing in the background. Let me know if you guys can hear that, because I can definitely hear something, but it may just be my in-ears playing up. So yes, how is everyone this week? Let me know how the audio is, if you need more or less of anything. I can see a few people in the chat, as I said, so who have we got over there already? Marty McFly is here with a question about Floyd Rose. I'll come back to that in a second. Basement Guitar Superstar's here. Hey, how's it going? Good to see you catching the stream as well. I know you're a busy guy. And Lindsay is here as well. My G always seems to come loose and break in the saddle too. Is that relating to a Floyd Rose as well? Let me know. Okay, so Marty, I'm going to dive straight in and try and figure that problem out for you. So on my Floyd Rose, the high E always seems to come loose or break inside the saddle clamp. So that, to me, are you finding that the string is actually snapping inside the saddle, or is it just popping out? Because depending on how you answer that question, that could be the next part of the problem. So if the string is just popping out, that would probably imply that the saddle is not tightening enough. If the string is actually snapping inside the saddle, what that would say to me is that there's a rough edge inside the saddle, or inside the block of the saddle. So what you could do is take that block out, just rub it very gently over some fine sandpaper and put it back in. That should fix the problem. Failing that, Floyd Rose clamp blocks are pretty cheap, so you could probably find some for very, very little money online if you needed to as well. So yeah, should be an easy fix, but let me know, and yeah, we'll dig deeper if we need to. We've got a few other comments there. Amped Wales is here as well. Fresh from Alice Cooper, I see. How are your years? Pretty good, actually, to be honest. The gig was awesome. So for anyone who doesn't follow me on socials, Alice Cooper played in Swansea, which is where I'm from, this week. And we've just got this new arena that's just opened, and it's kind of a small arena. It only holds like 3,000 people, which is quite nice. It's nice that we have a small venue, so to see someone like Alice play such a small venue is really cool. But yeah, he was in town with the Cult, and yeah, great gig. My hearing is completely fine because the sound in the new arena is actually really, really quiet. I was wearing my earplugs anyway, but I took them out a few times just to check, and yeah, the sound was strangely quiet, and it seemed to be something a lot of people complained about, that they could bump the volume up. But yeah, great gig though, and it was quite nice not to get, you know, my sense of hearing punished at a show. Nagendra's here. Hey, good to see you, and thank you for coming, Nagendra. Good to see you as well. Hope you're doing well. Love the finish on that vola. Yeah, it's an eye-catching finish, isn't it? It's a really I always think this was kind of made for videos, you know, because it's just got the right amount of everything you need to look good on camera. And the finish is cool because it's an open pore finish as well, so you don't get that super glossy kind of thing you get with some guitars. This actually shoots really well on video, even though the finish does have this slightly kind of iridescent finish to it, so it kind of goes silvery in certain lights. But because it's not a gloss finish, it shoots really, really well on video. So yeah, I do like this guitar. It's not my usual sort of guitar. I never usually gravitate towards kind of modern spec. I mean, I guess we could call it a metal guitar. I don't usually gravitate towards things like this, but it kind of fills my super strat bug. I do enjoy super strats, as you guys know. The Watermelon Swirl Super Strat, wasn't that what the original Jackson ones were called? Didn't they call that like watermelon Swirl or something to that extent. There was a very specific name for that original colour that Jackson used to make. But yeah, I remember that. Always used to see that on those old, like the old Jackson Kellys and things like that. I remember seeing them in the magazine years ago, and they were always in these crazy colours. I think a friend of mine actually had a Jackson Kelly in this finish as well. But I know Jackson were kind of the guys who were big into that finish for a long time. Quicksilver is back in Prague this week. Good to see you, Quicksilver. Hope you're doing good. How was the weather in Prague? The only time I visited Prague, it was November, so it was very cold. But I'm sure you guys probably get quite nice summers. CMG. Hey, Chris, how's it going? Good to see you here. Chris from CMG Custom Guitars. There's a couple of cool videos on my channel with me and Chris from CMG Guitars showing off some of his guitars. He makes some really cool handmade guitars with some incredible looking woods. And he actually converted me to liking a Flying V as well. I'd never liked a Flying V before until I played Chris's one. So yeah, go check his stuff out. Basement Guitar Superstar, hi Leigh. Hey, how's it going, Dan? Good to see you. How's everything going with you? Metatara's here, hello and good evening. Basement Guitar Superstar, that looks like it should be Henning Pauli's signature guitar. Well, there is a link to Henning and this guitar. The first time I ever tried one of these, it was actually Henning's one. So Henning owned the first one of these that I ever played, and yeah, it was through him I got to know the guys at Vola and get my hands on this one. So it's not Henning Pauli's signature, but Henning is part of the story about how I came to get this guitar. My favourite Jackson finish, I need to buy one. You don't see them very often anymore. I don't even think Jackson make guitars with that finish anymore. Only if he snaps the wiggle stick again. He would have a hard job snapping this one because this is a Goto trem. So I would love to see Henning try to break this. Jupiter FX is here. Hey Chris, how's it going? Chris from Jupiter FX is in the chat. We're actually going to be talking about something Chris sent me this week, which is this thing. The brand new mini silver machine. So I've mentioned Jupiter FX quite a few times on the live streams. We did some stuff a few weeks ago on the Catastrophe, which is behind me somewhere, right there. And I also, when we talked about Octave Fuzzes a few weeks ago, I talked about the silver machine, but it was this big, giant thing which looked really cool and sounded awesome. This is the mini version of the silver machine. Chris has put an LED in this one. He didn't actually put an LED into the original one because he always told me that you'll know when it's switched on, and he's right. The LED does help, but yeah, this is the smaller version, and we're going to check that out as well. So I had a few questions on social media about multi-effects as well. So someone asked me about some good affordable multi-effects units. I've got a couple here to hand that I want to talk about, and I'm going to show you what they are. The Boss MD200. On the super affordable end of the scale, the Sonicake, I think it's the fifth dimension. That's a very, very affordable mini multi-effects pedal. And the other one I'm going to be talking about, let me just unplug it so I can show you, is this one, which has pretty much been used in all the streams recently, the Amplitube X Vibe. So yeah, someone asked me over on Instagram about affordable multi-effects pedals. So I want to throw a comment or a question out to you guys as well in the chat. What are your favourite affordable multi-effects units? So the guy's looking to get his hands on one, sort of thinking in the, I think he said the £200 to £400 range. So all of these are kind of in that range. Like this one, the X Vibe, is about $250. The MD200 is about the same, and this one is, I don't know, but like probably less than £100. So yeah, in this video, we're going to spend a bit of time talking about multi-effects pedals as well. So topic-wise, where do we want to go first? Do we want to go down the Jupiter effects rabbit hole or the multi-effects rabbit hole? What do you guys think to start off with? We can either talk Octave Fuzz, or we can talk modulations and other swirly things. Chris, if you're still there, you should make a modulation pedal again, because I know you used to do a pretty wacky chorus pedal. I'd love to get your take on something like a Leslie kind of circuit, because I'm pretty sure you would do that in a really unique way. But yes, let me know if you want to go down the Jupiter effects rabbit hole first or the multi-effects rabbit hole. And I've got a couple of other Jupiter pedals I can grab as well if we want to dig deep into that stuff too. So what else have we got going on in the chat over there? Summers are fine here. It can get quite hot, as not a lot of places are equipped for air conditioning use, so very few places to run for cover. Last few summers only a couple of days at 31, 32, so quite okay. See, by the UK standards, 32 is a heat wave. So 32 is pretty hot by our standards. I think our summer average is about 25, 26. It was really cold when I went to Prague though, but I would like to go back and see it when it's not so cold. I can always do that finish or a similar thing. As soon as I get the workshop set up, I'm going to do some interesting finishes. That's really cool. I didn't know you were setting up a workshop as well as your home guitar room. So yeah, that'd be really cool to see what you come up with. Bought a Pariah Pasadena 86 humbucker for my EVH Bumblebee. I'll let you know how it sounds. Definitely better than the Gent flavoured pickup at the moment. Is that the stock pickup, or is that something that someone's put in? Because I'm pretty sure they should, if they're built properly, they should have a very vintage voiced humbucker. I usually avoid travelling in July and August to avoid heat waves. 36 degrees in Madrid. Yeah, that's pretty hot. Jupiter Effects run a reverb chorus called the Coughing Candy. Wow, is that going to be ready by Gear Street? Because I'd love to try one of those. That sounds really cool. I love that you put reverb in there as well, because why not? Why wouldn't you put reverb in there? Multi-effects as in the more GE300 kind of thing. Yeah, the GE300's the sort of thing. So, yeah, any kind of multi-effects that you think is really good and really affordable that you might want to talk about, because basically someone was asking me what some good ones are. I've got 3 here that I own that we can talk about, but I wanted to see if there's anything interesting that you guys knew about as well, just in case there's something that I missed. My first multi-effects, and only one I've owned, is the Digitech Rp200. It was such a pain to use. Some of the old multi-effects pedals were so, like, unintuitive to program. And I remember when I got my first multi-effects, it was a Zoom 707, and it was an absolute nightmare to program. It used to take ages to actually figure out how to change things and save patches. All of these modern ones, like this thing, looks really complex, but actually it's really, really easy to set things up. The MD200 by Boss, kind of the same thing, really easy to program patches in, but the only thing that lets this one down is the small screen, because you don't always know what all the parameters are doing. But, you know, it's a minor price. Yes, maybe, I don't know. I hope that would be cool if it is ready, Chris, because I would love to see that. If it's anything like everything else I've tried, then it's, you know, I'm pretty sure I'm going to like it. This thing is going to be fun. This thing is going to make a really fun video, though. If you like Octave Fuzz, this is definitely one to look at. I'm actually just going to plug this in first while we've got Chris here as well, because I want you guys to hear what this thing sounds like. And I'm just plugging that in. Okay, so let's get the silver machine plugged in. I hope you guys like fuzz and octaves, because this thing is both of those. This is octaves and fuzz in one. It's got dual lock on it as well, so I'm probably never going to get this off my pedal board. Totally clean tone from the Black Star St. James 6L6. It's actually a little bit crunchy. There's a little bit of bite there. Silver Machine, everything set at midnight. This is where it gets a bit crazy. So instantly, super loud, just like everything Chris makes. So I'm going to back off the volume a little bit there. That's why I love this Octave Fuzz, because it's quite unpredictable. I love that it's got 2 gain stages as well. So you can actually cascade the 2 gains into each other. Chris knows all about how that works, because obviously he designed it. But it's a really interesting way of sort of fuzzing the octave a bit more. I don't really understand the electronic workings of it myself, but it's really cool when you get it to kind of bite. So I'm going to crank up one side of the gain and bring the other side down. And it's just so loud. There's just so much volume. So much gain. I love that you can interchange the way the 2 gain stages work as well. So I'm going to flip that round now, so the first side is low and the second side is high. And then when you roll the guitar volume back, you just get that real nice kind of upper octave. It kind of goes into the slightly synthy kind of Octavia sort of vibe. And then that's just running into the clean amp. If I switch on some overdrive now, like this, that's the Wampler gearbox on the kind of Marshall in a box kind of side. This is what the Silver Machine does. So you can get some really classic tones out of it, but it does go a bit wacky as well, which is really cool. I've obviously got one side of the gain now on low and the other side on high. I'll completely dive in a second as well. My senses are on fire just hearing this on my iPhone. It's an insane pedal. What you really have to experience with this pedal as well, which is hard to get on like a live stream, and I'm not even getting the full effect because I've got it on in-ears. what really makes this thing come alive is when you play it through a real amp in the room. And these things just hit amps so hard. Like, you're hearing the St. James through an IR today through the Captor X. Couldn't find it then. So obviously you're getting the sound, but the experience isn't quite the same. When you hear this thing in a room, honestly, it's insane. Like, Chris just does something that sonically destroys things. It's great. I've got one of those Jackson John about finishers called Swirl, playing the world iridescent. Sounds like broken glass. It does. It's got that kind of real, like, harsh, abrasive thing, but that's exactly what an Octave Fuzz should be like, I think. It needs that kind of aggression. I'm going to dime it now as well, just because. I'm not going to dime the volume. Wow, okay. So that noise, that's literally just from the gain on the pedal being up full without me doing anything. The volume on my guitar is down. So I'm going to dime that and play it. That was max gain into the Wampler gearbox. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much enough fuzz gain there to satisfy most people's needs. I do love this thing. I love that you can get really spluttery, but it also works great if you don't put the gain that high. So if you just set the gains to, like, you know, both gains at 10 o'clock. That's the gain range where some of my favourite sounds in this pedal lie as well. I probably should have started there in hindsight instead of going straight to the extremes of the gain. So actually I've just got both the gains on like 10 o'clock. This for me is where the pedal is the most like the way I like it in my head. It's got enough of the bite and the octave thing going on, but without being too fuzzy. Especially when you run it into, because I'm running it into an overdrive pedal right now, so it's sort of distorting the signal afterwards. This is where it kind of gets into the vintage Octavia kind of thing for me. And like all true Octave Fuzzes, it doesn't do chords very well, because it's not meant to. So yeah, that's a real fun pedal. I'm going to be doing a full demo of that thing very, very soon. Some of you guys may have already seen the full-size Silver Machine demo that I've done already as well. Chris is still in the chat. There's a filter effect when you have the gains over 12 and bend and hold notes for a few seconds. Let's try it. Over 12 o'clock? How far over? Like just over. Let's see what happens. There it is. That's really cool. That's something I've never heard a fuzz pedal do before. It kind of, it's almost like a tremolo. It sort of modulates depending on what notes you're playing as well, which is really fun. That's just such a cool pedal. I've always had a soft spot for the Silver Machine since I first heard the big one. And now it fits on a pedal board. The big one does fit on most pedal boards, but obviously it's so big. It's like the size of a wah pedal. Nasty in the best way. I think that's what you need from a fuzz though. You don't want a fuzz pedal to be polite. I mean, you could, you know, if you were playing, you know, nice blues licks. You don't want a fuzz pedal to sound like that. You want to kick on a fuzz and... Now that time, it was actually a completely different tone, because what I did that time was I actually ended up stacking it into the other side of the gearbox, the Klon side, not the Marshall side, by accident. So if you put it into a cleaner drive, it gets like a really kind of, like, to me that's the kind of 60s Keith Richards-y. That kind of 60s fuzz thing. So yeah, that's really interesting. There's a lot of cool tones in that. For a small pedal with 3 knobs, it's got a lot of tones in there. And if you like fuzz and octave fuzz, but you don't like the brightness, there's actually 3 dip switches inside, which obviously you can just turn them all on and off, and that increases the amount of high frequencies that are cut out of the circuit as well. I've just got it left alone. Just because for me that's kind of where it works, but Chris has put those in there, so if you're using it with a bright amp or a really bright guitar, you can tame some of the highs as well, if you don't like them, that is. Sounds like the guitar tone equivalent of Godzilla roaring. Yeah, it does. Hendrix would enjoy that tone. He probably would. This pairs really well with other drives as well, so whatever kind of drive you stack the Silver Machine with, it tends to sort of sit quite nice with it. I think it works quite well into a clean amp as well. So in the lower settings, straight into a clean amp, it sounds like this. So yeah, even into a clean amp, it's got a lot of really cool tones. The fact that the octave thing works really well, something I kind of pick up on this is, it kind of sounds like there's a lower octave, but there's not. I think it's just the way that the note is kind of clashing with itself. It's really cool. That would be a cool pedal though if, I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one thinking this, but if Chris did a fuzz with an octave down, that would be pretty cool as well. Especially paired with the octave up. That would be a lot of fun. Wow, a nice basement guitar superstar. Yeah, I mean, those kind of are the words that I used when I first heard the Silver Machine as well. It just instantly, like, just took to it straight away. It's one of those sounds that, you know, I love Octave Fuzz. I kind of grew up listening to the guys that played Octave Fuzz, and it was always a sound that I knew I liked, but it's not a sound I use all the time. But when I do use it, I kind of have a very specific thing in mind, and the Silver Machine for me does kind of answer that question. I like that it's a little bit nastier than other Octave Fuzzes, because it's just got a little bit more of an edge to it, I think. So yeah, it's sort of it's an interesting take on the vintage sound. It's not distinctly vintage, but it can do the classic sound, but also it can get a bit wacky as well. And obviously, you know, if you turn it up, you know what happens. It goes into Godzilla land, which is really cool. So I've missed quite a few comments there, so let me just have a quick catch up. So Marty has a Jackson with this finish, and which it's a made in Japan DKM 2. I bet that's a really cool guitar. I'd love to see a picture of that. Play Paint It Black with the volume rolled back and it'll sound about right. Let me try that. Neck pickup, low gain, and let's see what happens. Kind of verges on that sitar-y sound. Pretty cool. Sounds like the same effect as Jack White's new song. I haven't heard Jack White's new song yet. I need to check that out. Chris from Jupiter Effects is a damn genius. He is a genius. He's also crazy. He's designed some crazy circuits. I'm going to be checking out his new amp soon when I next see him, and he's already told me that it's so loud that it made his friend lose focus in his eyes. So I'm looking forward to getting punished by that amp. So genius and crazy. Those are the two words to describe Chris, but he is the nicest guy. Bet it would be superb for Queens of the Stone Age stuff. It probably would, because obviously again there's plenty of Queens of the Stone Age tracks where Josh Homme uses Octave Fuzz for leads. So yeah, it would easily do that kind of vibe. I don't know any other riffs to play, but it can do it. Jesus, that's loud. It is a loud pedal. It's a very loud pedal. And the volume is currently set to 1/4 of the way up. So you can imagine what that would do if, yeah, you know, if it was cranked into something, then... Or do you mean the amp is loud as well? If the eyes are bleeding, it's loud. Oh yeah, you must mean the amp. Well, they weren't bleeding, but he told me that the amp was loud enough that his friend couldn't focus his eyes. So yeah, I'm looking forward to trying that thing out. That's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, that's the Jupiter Effects Silver Machine, which is now stuck to my desk pedal board, because that's really stuck. Because it's got dual lock on there, and dual lock, there it goes, and I've just knocked everything else off my desk. You can't get dual lock off anything. So yeah, there's another look at it. The Silver Machine in a new compact housing. And there's the dual lock that nearly just destroyed my desk. So yeah, I'm going to be doing a full video on this soon. That's going to be a lot of fun. If you've already checked out the original Silver Machine video I've done, you'll kind of know what to expect. If you haven't checked out the original Silver Machine video, go and do that, because the original one is really cool as well. Same circuit, but bigger, in a housing that rusts itself, which is really cool as well. So every original Silver Machine is unique because they all rust differently. I don't know how Chris did it, but he basically did something to the coating, and every one, when you touch it in different ways, it just pretty much rusts instantly, which is really cool. So over time, they relic themselves a lot. The one I have is sort of like halfway to rusted now, and I've only had it like a year, but I know people who've had them slightly longer, and they're just completely relict and really kind of rough looking, which is cool. So, the other topic we were going to talk about, as I mentioned, was multi-effects. So I'm just going to reconfigure my pedal board again. I had to put my drive second in the chain for the Octave Fuzz, but now it's going back to the front. So I had a question on Instagram about multi-effects units, and yeah, I have 3 here that I want to talk about, but also you guys have mentioned a few in the comments as well that we're going to explore. So yeah, this is a question that Philip Michael asked me on Instagram. So yeah, we're going to talk about a couple of multi-effects units. The idea is affordable ones as well, so if you guys remember any other affordable ones, throw them in the chat. Sounds like this dude specializes in pedals and amps of mass destruction. He does. Chris's thing is destruction. The last pedal he sent me was the Catastrophe, which I had on the stream a couple of weeks ago, actually. I actually did the first playthrough with it on the stream, and then I ended up posting a full-length demo. That pedal is called a Sludgefest Dominator, so that kind of tells you everything you need to know. It is the most amount of distortion you'll ever hear from a single pedal, but also if you turn it down, it kind of sounds like a tube screamer. So you can kind of go from Stevie Ray Vaughan to whatever. The biggest amount of, like, the gain is kind of martially voiced, so think like a JCM 800 covered in rocket fuel, and that's kind of the sound. And Chris also put a second foot switch on the pedal to bring in an octave up, because why not? I mean, why wouldn't we need an octave up? That's a really cool pedal. I'll grab it and show you. So this is it. The Catastrophe, not autofocusing at all. There we go. The Catastrophe Sludgefest Dominator. So yeah, we've got 6 knobs, kind of a Marshally gain stack. It's bass, treble, presence, volume, gain, and low cut. You can kind of do the JCM 800 thing, but in the lower gain settings you can do like a tube screamer-ish thing. It's not really a tube screamer circuit, but you can dial in that kind of sound. And then the big knob is octave. So the more you add, the more there is, and that just switches on the octave up, because every pedal needs an octave up, because it's fun. I think more people should put octave ups in their pedals. I think it just adds to the experience. And that's the other thing, is his pedals have all got a very distinct look. Chris is very much into the black and brushed metal aesthetic. All the pedals look like that, which is cool. Very kind of rustic and industrial. He is an evil genius. He is an evil genius indeed. Not bleeding, but they vibrated in their eye sockets. That kind of, I mean, yeah, that's, I don't really know what else to say about that. I mean, if you have an amp that's loud enough to vibrate your eyes in sockets, it's a pretty loud amp. You're probably not going to need any additional volume from something that can do that to you. I can't wait to check that thing out. I'm hoping that my eyes aren't going to be too damaged from it, because my eyes are pretty good considering how much time I spend looking at a screen. My eyes are actually okay, but I'm pretty sure that amp might finish me off. Definitely getting the Leigh Black Sabbath vibe from the aesthetics of these pedals. Yeah, there is a bit of that. Chris is a big fan of like JCMs, Leigh AOR amps, and also Sun Model Ts. So there's definitely that Sabbathy, doomy kind of vibe in a lot of the tone bass. But also on the flip side, he's a big fan of the Cure, which sounds nothing like the Catastrophe, but you know, you can do it though. Last time my eyes vibrated in the eye sockets, Motorhead did it. Well, this amp is like having Motorhead with you at all times. He showed me an amp he built last year, which was his small amp, and it was his quiet amp. I think it was rated at 30 watts, and he put it on like 5 watt mode, and it was insanely loud. So the new amp, I think, is 200 watts. Chris, if you're still watching, am I right in saying it's 200 watts, the new amp? Or is the last one 200 watts and this one's louder again? I can't remember what the exact number was. I know the first amp of his I tried was 150 watts, and that was loud. And it weighed a ton. It weighed an absolute ton. So yes, so Philip, multi-effects. Obviously Philip is sometimes in the stream. I don't think he's here tonight, but he asked me on Instagram about multi-effects pedals. So he's looking to get his hands on some multi-effects for a good price. So we're going to talk about what multi-effects are and why you might want them. So for me, my personal kind of link with multi-effects is I'm just not a big fan of effects as such. I don't tend to dive too deep into the rabbit hole with many different effects. I like my drives, I like stacking drives, I like my reverb, but beyond that, I'm not really someone who needs to collect chorus pedals, even though I love chorus pedals, and chorus pedals are so 80s. But for me, the idea of having a huge pedal board for things that I may not use that often kind of puts me off a bit. So multi-effects have always been a bit of a godsend for me, because the sort of gigs I'm doing at the moment, I'm more often than not using really small boards, and I need something that can do a lot of things with a very minimal footprint. So these kind of pedals have saved me many times. So something like the MD200, it's got, I mean, chorus, flanger, phaser. I'm not even listing all of them here, I'm just running through the main ones. Vibe, classic vibe, vibrato, tremolo, rotary, auto wah. You can save like 4 presets on there. So that's the sort of thing for me that works perfectly for modulation, because in my kind of work in life, I maybe need modulation for like 3 songs in a set. So it doesn't make sense for me to give up a lot of pedal board real estate for something I'm going to use once. So a multi-effect is perfect for that, because I can literally have like my chorus sound, and then I just get that bank ready before the song, and when I need the chorus, on it goes. And then the next song I might need a tremolo, get the tremolo bank ready, on goes the tremolo, and then that might be it for, you know, 10 songs before I need to touch it again. So each one of these pedals, they all kind of do the same thing, but they're all slightly different priced. So the cheapest one, or the most affordable one, is the Sonicake 5th Dimension. You can't really see it there because the text on it is really dark, so it's really hard to see on camera. But same thing, it's got phaser, flanger, it's got a chorus, a tremolo, a couple of different tremolos, a rotary, vibrato, an auto wah, and a lo-fi mode. This is really simple as far as multi-effects go, because it's literally got a mix control, which controls the wet-dry, the depth, which is how intense the effect is, and the rate, which is how fast the rate is. If you're looking for multi-effects that you can really kind of deep dive and tweak, things like this, the X Vibe or the MD200, may suit you better, because obviously there's so much more you can do with these. This one even has its own software editor, which is Amplitube, the guitar plugin suite. You can plug this in and do all your tweaks through there. But if you want a multi-effects that's literally just, you know, plug and play, you can't really beat something like the 5th Dimension. From what I remember, I haven't plugged this pedal in a long time, but from what I remember, the sounds aren't too bad. I've had this pedal for a long time, actually. It was one of the first pedals that Sonicake ever sent me, and I don't actually think it ever made it into a video, but it's not a bad pedal. It's, if I remember right, the only negative was I'm pretty sure it kind of popped when you turned it on. It did, yeah, it did pop. That was the reason I didn't use this thing. Because I did actually put this on my pedal board once with the intention of just having like a small pedal that I could just kick on and off for certain effects that I might only use once. And then this happened for the first time I ever used it. But the pop wasn't as bad the second time. So I'm going to assume that Sonicake have addressed that issue, because like I said, I've had this pedal for like 2.5 years. So I'm going to assume that this isn't the way the modern ones perform. But it's got some really cool things. I've just got everything set to midnight. This is the phaser. Got that nice phase 90 kind of vibe. Got some more extreme effects like a flanger. I mean, in the midnight position, that's a pretty hard tone to use. So that one you're going to need to tweak. I hear some players that use flanger and they get great sounds out of it. Whenever I use a flanger, it sounds like ridiculous. I don't know how to get the best out of them. There's an effect called Big Sky. I have no idea what Big Sky is. Some kind of wobbly chorus type thing. That's kind of chorusy. It has a stereo chorus as well. Stereo chorus, but it's only a mono pedal. Can't really work that one out because it's not a stereo chorus, but it's labeled a stereo chorus. Seems to add a lot of low end, but it sounds pretty good. There's two different types of tremolo, liquid trem and opto trem. This is the opto trem. We've also got, what else have we got? Roto 60, I'm guessing this is like a Leslie vibe. Quite nice. That pairs quite nicely with some drive. What else we got? We got Crybot or Crying Bot. This is going to be like an auto wah vibe. Now, what's really nice there is actually, for a pedal that's super affordable, that is actually very touch sensitive. So when you play soft, it kind of stays at one level, and then when you hit harder, it starts to quack a bit more. So that's quite cool. So that's a nice touch for an affordable multi-effects, and this is something called Lo-Fi, which can't really remember what this does, but it's kind of like a glitchy type thing. Yeah, that's one of those effects that, you know, who can find a use for that? If anyone can think of a good use for that sound, let me know. So that one is, yeah, the Sonicake 5th Dimension. So, Philip, if you're watching, that's a really good one-stop shop for multi-effects. If you're looking for something that can literally do anything and everything in one box, the Sonicake 5th Dimension. Now, as I said, I think these are pretty affordable. So, let's take a quick check over on Google and have a look. I'm pretty sure these are, oh, there we go. So like, I was even wrong with the price. I actually might have said it was a bit more. $39.99 on Amazon for the Sonicake modulation effect. 5th Dimension new. So yeah, they have changed it slightly since the version that I have. So the version I have, you'll notice, has red text and the Sonicake logo is yellow, and these knobs, well, these are removable. They're like these rubber tops that they have, but the pots are actually see-through, and there's a light underneath them. So the pedal doesn't actually have an LED of its own. The knobs at the top light up. But on the new version, which you'll see now on the website, all the text is orange, and it does have an LED, and the knobs are different. And obviously the big selector is a different type as well. Same pedal, but the overall visual is slightly different. So these are retailing at $55.99 US, which is going to be like, again, 40-ish pound. So 11 mode digital modulation. So yeah, it's basically just the same pedal, but they've slightly updated it. I've just seen in the chat that Philip is here. Hey Philip, how's it going? We're talking about the multi-effects pedals that you were asking about. So the first one, if you did miss it, was that one I was just showing then, the Sonicake 5th Dimension. We're talking about a couple of different affordable multi-effects based on your question. This is the most affordable. This retails at like £40 in the UK. Then we've got some other ones. So Boss MD200. This is slightly more on the price scale. This is sort of in the 200 mark. So this is the same deal. I'll plug this one in. It's going to be all the different modulation sounds in one box. This one has the option to have 4 different presets, and this one is true stereo. So the Sonicake one has what they call stereo effects, but it's not a stereo pedal. This one is actually stereo. So I'm going to put this into manual mode, and I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm just going to make a few noises. I'm not going to go too deep into the tweaking, just to give you an overview of what it can do. So first up, we've got chorus. This has 2 chorus modes. So it has a regular chorus, which I guess is just the Boss, kind of the CE5 vibe. And then it has a CE1 version, which is the classic vintage chorus. that's a really nice chorus. The boss just nailed the chorus thing, I think. This has all the usual ones, so we've got flanger. I can never make flanger sound right, but here is the flanger. Okay, that flanger actually didn't sound too bad, to be fair. I actually quite like that one. The chorus is, I think, one of the best effects in this one anyway. Especially with drive, it's very 80s. That works really well. Got a phaser and a vintage phaser in this one. So the big difference there is the phaser is the boss phaser, which is the PH5, the green one. And then the vintage phaser is based on a phase 90. So that one's really cool. It's the Van Halen thing, obviously. So if you like the Van Halen thing, that's a really good one. It actually has a built-in drive mode, which I'm trying to remember how to activate. My biggest drawback with the MD200 is because it's only got one of those 2-digit LED screens, it's really hard to tweak. So there is a way you can hold down one of the knobs and move the parameter knobs, and it tells you in 2 letters what the parameter is, but I mean, it's not ideal for fast tweaking by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm even trying to remember how to actually change it between the modes, and I can't remember because aha, right, I think that's it. So this should now be like a distorted phaser. So the drive is coming from, let me turn that off. So the drive is coming from the MD200 as well. So again, just an interesting texture if you choose to add some drive to it. This has Classic Vibe, which is their take on the Uni Vibe thing. Not the most Uni-Vibe sounding thing, but I mean, I've not dialed it in there really. Vibrato, tremolo, Rotary is really good on this. I like the Rotary. I like that one. There's an auto wah here as well, which is always fun. that auto bar does work well, but you have to really dial that one in a bit. Then it kind of goes into some wacky stuff. So there's something called a slicer. This is sort of like a, what would you describe this as? Kind of like a, it's like a beat slicer, so it gives you different kind of subdivisions. I mean, obviously some of those are quite hard to use. And then there's something called Overtone. This is kind of like an octave down kind of thing. It kind of does a Leslie speaker. Not a Leslie, like a Hammond organ thing. So if you need some keys in your sounds, in your songs, that's really cool. You can dial it in to be like an octave down thing as well. But I think it sounds really cool as a, I keep saying Leslie, as a kind of Hammond organ sim. I've used that a lot at gigs. When I've been on gigs where there's not a keyboard player, but I've maybe needed to recreate a keyboard line. One that I've done that a lot for is, there's a song by an artist from Swansea called Spencer Davis, and he has a song which has a lot of kind of, well, all his songs are kind of keys led, so a lot of the hooks are very kind of Hammond organy. So the song we used to do is a song called Gimme Some Lovin', and it's got this, let me try to remember it. So when you're on a gig without a keyboard player, that is an invaluable effect because you can kind of create that keys sound. So that's the Boss MD200. So price wise, let's see what that one's clocking in at. So this one, what is this coming in at online at the moment? It's not even coming up on any websites. Okay, so that one is about the £200 mark. So 209 up to about 230 you could expect to pay for that one. So that's a pretty good price. Obviously it's a lot of effects for the money, and I believe that kind of sits right in the price ballpark you were looking at. And the final one is one that I've been using a lot on the live streams, but I haven't actually done a demo of yet, is this thing, the Amplitube X Vibe. This is multi-effects that basically uses the same algorithms as IK Multimedia's Amplitube software. So this is basically that in a pedal. You can actually download an editor for this, which actually puts this into the software as a a unit as well, so you could actually integrate these pedals into your Amplitube rig by plugging into your computer, so they actually double as USB interfaces too. So this one has a bunch of different effects, I think 16 in all. I think we've got 16, yes, 16. So it has all the usual things you'd expect, like chorus, which sounds, there's actually 3 different types of chorus. There's chorus 80, chorus 1, and chorus X. So here's how chorus 80 sounds. And then chorus X, we'll just skip ahead to. So plenty there for the 80s fans. We've got a 60s vibe. It's quite a nice one. There's a couple of phases in here as well. So there's phaser 9 and phaser 10. Oh, and also phaser CL. So I'm guessing 9 and 10 is obviously going to be the phase 90 and the phase 100. CL, I'm not sure what that's based on, but it does say in the manual. So yeah, pretty typical phase 90 kind of vibe. This has a fox tone phaser as well, which is really cool. So this is like very 60s. Quite nice, very kind of swirly. It's got a stone, which I think is like a what's the small stone? I think that might be a phaser as well, actually. So I think there's a lot of phasers in this. So that one's a lot harsher. Now obviously I'm not dialing any of these in, I'm literally just banking through presets here. Electric, this is probably going to be the electric Ladyland flanger. Yeah, that's a flanger. Lots of phasey, flangey things there if you're into those kind of sounds. This is something called the doubler, which should be like a double tracker. That's kind of strange. That just sort of adds like a metallic kind of slapback kind of thing. And there's also a setting called metallic. I don't know what that does either. Kind of goes into ring modulated territory, but I actually thought the previous one sounded more metallic. Rotary, we love Rotary. That's obviously dialed in really slow as the preset. Tremolo. That's a big ramp up. Okay, so it's going to be a good tremolo, but that's not dialed in at all. There's a step slicer. I suspect this is going to be quite similar to the slicer in the MD200. It's another one of those kind of rhythmic, choppy things. And then a step filter as well. This has the potential to be pretty wacky. That's an interesting effect. I mean, I find those step things quite hard to dial in personally, but I'm sure there is a use for them. I'm sure someone out there has a use for those things. So yeah, that's the third one I have, which is the IK Multimedia. If I could spell right, that would help. X Vibe. And these ones retail at... Guitar have them reduced from $299 to $239 at the moment. Andertons have them from $259 down to $239. So that's the kind of price you can expect to pay for that one. That's probably the top of the price range there out of what the three we've spoken about. So you've got the Sonicake 5th Dimension clocking in at £40. MD200 clocking in like 200-ish, and then the Amplitube X Vibe clocking in at 240-ish. So yeah, all pretty affordable. A lot of effects there for the money. That looks good. Amplitube, I already have the Boss Katana, so I have a lot of Boss patches already. Looking for other brands, what would you go for the best one excluding the Boss? Personally, out of all of them, the X Vibe is becoming my favourite one. The Boss one has been my go-to multi-modulation, multi-effects for a long time because of the size of it. It's just been so easy to put this on pedal boards and take it anywhere I need. But I always found the fact that you have to bank through everything a little bit of a pain, because if you forget to set your bank before the song, you're tapping away till you find your bank. And the lights and the display are very small, but honestly, if you can look past that, this is insanely good value for money. But the X Vibe is kind of catching up with it in many ways. Which one do I think sounds better? That's the loaded question, though, isn't it? I think the X Vibe is more tweakable, so I think you can probably get more, or not more tweakable, but easier to tweak. So the Boss one, everything's just labelled, I don't know if you can really see it on the live stream camera, but we've got these knobs at the bottom, parameter 1, 2 and 3. Now the problem with that is you don't know what those parameters do when you set it to different effects. You have to hold that one is actually a button. You have to hold that down and turn the knob, and then on this screen it gives you like a 2-digit identifier of what the parameter does for each effect. But you can't remember that if you're trying to tweak in the middle of a gig. The X Vibe, it's literally laid out. Speed, depth, bass, middle, treble. It's got a big display, and when you turn the parameter knob to access additional parameters, it actually tells you on the screen what the parameter is. So the X Vibe, I think, is much better for tweaking if you want to deep dive and really get more out of your effects. That one is a winner. Also, the fact it has a 3-band EQ that you can use for each effect, I mean, that's just a bonus in itself. Portability, this one, this is great if you don't want to spend much money, but there are a few little problems with it, like the switch pops a little bit and the effects aren't the best. Pretty good though, sound good, but I mean, it's a £40 pedal. But I would probably, if it was me, X Vibe is the one that I would look at, just because I really like that pedal. I think it's great. There are a ton of other cool ones that people have mentioned in the chat as well. So let me just scroll back up and find a few of those for you. So a few other ones that have been mentioned. The Digitech Rp200, that's quite an old one, so I mean, you're probably not going to be buying one of those these days. The Moa GE300, that's pretty good again, very affordable, pretty good. The Boss ME80, that's a really good one. Sort of like this, but in a bigger format with, I think it's got like a switch for each effect you can use. The More Red Truck is also a good one. The Nuex MG30, now that's meant to be really good. I've not tried one myself yet, but I'm meant to be getting one at some point to do a demo of. And another one I have, I actually have this on the way at the moment. And I will pull it up to show you. It's actually from the guys at Harley Benton. And this is currently en route to my studio at the moment. This is the Dnafx Git Pro. This is their take on the multi-effects, and that clocks in at 244. Now at this point I can't say if it's good or not because it hasn't arrived. I've got high hopes for it. This is kind of Harley Benton's take on the Line 6 Helix or the Headrush kind of vibe. So there's a bit more going on in terms of multi-effects. It's got amp sims as well. I mean, you can see there's a huge list of specs. It's got amp modeling, IR loaders, it's got different effects, it's got a 5-inch color screen, it's got, what have we got, compressor, EQ, wah, auto wah, all via the expression pedal, a harmonizer, overdrive, distortion chorus, flanger, phaser, rotary, tremolo, reverb, delay, and a noise suppressor. So yeah, that is kind of a all singing, all dancing, multi-effects. That one I will be getting at some point in the next few weeks, probably sooner. It's on the route at the moment. It's en route, so that should be here at some point soon. So I can give you my opinion on that one when it gets here as well. But yeah, I mean, there's a ton of great multi-effects out there. You don't have to spend big money these days for multi-effects pedals. I mean, I know you've already got a lot of them in the Katana anyway. You're just kind of breaking out of that box a bit and having some pedals on the floor. You can't really go wrong with anything that's been mentioned, I think, by me or by anyone in the comments, because they're all great. There's a lot of really good stuff out there these days. I guess it just depends on use factor. Like for me, the X Vibe works better at the moment because like I said, I like to be able to tweak a bit more. I haven't gigged it yet, but I will be gigging it at some point. It will probably find its way onto a pedal board. And what I like about this one versus this one is I know it's a bit bigger, but it has two switches where I can assign presets. So I could have two modulations on there, and then you can have different banks. So I could have like bank 1 could be like a chorus and a phaser, and then bank 2 will be something else. And then it's got a tap tempo independently. On this one, the memory and tap tempo switch is the same. So this switch banks through the 5 or the 4 presets, and if I want it to go to tap tempo, I have to hold it until the light flashes, and then I can tap tempo. So again, you have to remember which one you're doing. If you start a song with a modulation that needs to be tap tempoed and tap tempo is not enabled on this, you're going to lose like a second of playing time as well. So from a convenience point of view as well, the X Vibe for me is my new multi-effects that I'm kind of really leaning into more and more. Like I said, I haven't gigged it yet, but will be very soon, hopefully. I'm sure it's going to find its way onto a pedal board in the near future. And I'm pretty sure it just runs off 9 volt. It does, whereas the Boss runs off 12. So again, bear that in mind. Always check the power ratings when you're buying a multi-effects as well. Some of them, digital ones, will need a little bit more juice than others. The Boss one needs 12, and it's quite thirsty on the power supply. The Amplitube one, not so much. So if you're chaining it up with other pedals, that's a little bit less power intensive. More phasers than Star Trek. There's a lot of phasers in there. If you like phaser, it's a great pedal. There's like 5 different phasers. Out of 16 effects, I do think that's a little bit of overkill, because really, when we think of phaser, 9 times out of 10 you're going to be going for a phase 90. The other 4 are probably going to be pretty redundant in that sense. I think there's probably other things they could have filled that gap with. I like the 3 choruses. I like the vibrato. 5 phases, we don't need 5 phases. I think they could have probably put something extra in there, like an auto wah, for instance, or maybe like another variation on a vibrato or a uni-vibe kind of thing instead of one of those phasers. But again, you can't have it all. You can't have it all, can you? Would it phase you having that much choice? I see what you did there. I mean, you'd be phased because there'd be 5 of them. So there's what would be cool is if you could stack them. That is one thing I would actually really like to see Amplitube bring into this range, and I don't know if it's something they're thinking about doing. But because you can assign 2 effects to each bank, it would be really cool to be able to stack them, because at the moment the A and B switches are literally just 1 on, 1 off. So if you hit foot switch B, it turns A off. Now, I think it would be really cool to make them stackable, so that you could have like a chorus and then layer something on top of it. And you know, if you're just someone who wants to get really wacky with effects or get a bit soundscapey, stacking the modulations could be a really cool way to do that. So that may be something that hopefully they think about in the future, because I would quite like to see that added as a feature. Ideally, if you're going through a phaser phase. I think every guitar player goes through a phaser phase at some point. It's one of those effects, I think, that people that play with phaser, they either use it for everything or they don't use it at all. And I'm more in the second camp. I have a phase 90, and when I got it, it was the best thing in the world. It was plugged in every day, and I was just doing Van Halen licks. And then after like a month, I put it away, and I literally never got it out again, because it's just, yeah, it's not one of those effects that I lean on. I'm more of a chorus guy these days. Chorus for me is really doing it at the moment. I love just shimmery, I think the chorus 80 is my favourite one on here. That wins for me every time. I'm really into chorus for lead guitar these days. So whack up the gain, whack up the lows, and then just do this. Or don't do that because I didn't plug my my overdrive pedal back in properly. Or I did, but it's not coming on. I've done something seriously wrong here, haven't I? So now my one plug gearbox won't switch on. So I can't show you what I was going to talk about because I was going to make some 80s noise. But for some reason, my gearbox won't switch on, which is very unusual because it's never done that before. So I need to try and fix that problem because that's a pedal I use quite a lot. Aha, right. So it does this thing sometimes that I've heard. Mine, I've only now done it for the first time, but I've heard that sometimes when you plug them in, they don't power up straight away and you have to literally unplug everything to make it work again. So we're back in business now. That's one of my favourite things to do a chorus. Just crank up the gain and just, yeah, chuck some chorus on top and get some really 80s sounding leads. It's one of the best uses for it, I think. But yeah, there's a bit of a walkthrough there on multi-effects for you, Philip. Hopefully that helps, and yeah, hopefully that helps you make the right choice in your multi-effects journey. It's a useful thing to have in your arsenal purely because obviously, you know, you can have a ton of effects without giving up a lot of board space. Zakk Wylde, goodness, don't say that man's name in front of me. I'm not a Zakk Wylde fan. That's more that's more 80s hair metal than Zakk Wylde. I'd much rather play Poison licks than Zakk Wylde licks any day of the week. But yeah, multi-effects is fun. You can get a lot of different sounds. If you are someone who wants to go down the road of having single pedals, a multi-effects is a great way to try different things out as well. I know you set a pretty tight budget for that one. I think you told me you capped it at about 400. All these are closer to the 200 mark. There are some other options that are closer to the top of your budget, things that I don't have here personally, but like Walrus Audio have just released a new one called the M1, which is part of, they have this series called the Mako series, which is basically a series of these small format pedals that do a lot. So this is the ACS, which is like the amp cab simulator, but they've just released the modulation one as well. That's probably closer to the top of your budget. That's like 400. That's a good shout. Or you can go down the road of looking at like a Line 6 Helix, not the full ones because those are like $1,000, but they have the HX Stomp, which I think is like 400-ish. And then if you want to stretch to like 550, 600 quid, you can look at like the HX Stomp XL. But again, those are outside of the scope of what you wanted, but they're considerations if you go there. There goes the Wild Audio reviews you've been offered. I've never been offered a Wild Audio review. But yeah, I'm just not a fan of Zakk's. I just never got into his playing style. He's just one of those guitar players that just didn't do it for me. I was never really into, you know, the pinch. It just was never something that clicked with me as a guitar player. He's a great player and he's great at what he does, but yeah, it's just not for me. He's a bit too out there. Crenar's here. Hey Crenar, how's it going? Good to see you. Hot Pole Studios, greetings from sunny Spain. Hope you're well. Hey Adam, good to see you. I saw that you were in Spain. Yeah, I actually saw that on Facebook earlier. Hope you're having a good time. It's really warm here as well for some strange reason. It's actually quite warm in South Wales, which we don't get very often. Adam, Crenar, what's your favourite multi-effects pedal? We've been talking about multi-effects tonight because someone asked me over on Instagram for some recommendations of some affordable multi-effects units. So we've talked about the Sonicake 5th Dimension, which is our super budget £40 pedal. Boss MD200, pretty classic. That's about £200. And I've got the IK Multimedia X Vibe plugged in as well, which is like £240. I think the idea is he wants to keep it under about £400. So if either of you guys have a good recommendation as well that we might have missed, that would be good to hear. Because I'm pretty sure Adam especially, I'm sure you've come across plenty of cool multi-effects in the studio. If I'm going old school, the Zoom 506 is my jam. I've got a 505 somewhere. I keep meaning to dig it out to see how it stands up today. I actually have, my first multi-effects was the Zoom 707, which was the 2-foot switches with the expression pedal. And I don't have that here, but I know who has it. A friend of mine has it. I loaned it to him years ago. And I think he still has it, actually. He's had it for like, when I think I loaned it to him in like 2006, I think I loaned it to him. So he's had it for, you know, what would that be, like 14 years now. But I would be amazed if it still worked. I might need to get that back off him and see how it sounds. If you only need a single stomp, then the Zoom Multi-Stomp pedals. I didn't think of those, yeah. So there's another one to look at, Philip. Zoom do these things called multi-stomps, so you can load up like multiple effects onto the pedal. It's a single, like, you know, like a regular stomp box size pedal with a screen on it, and you can basically then just bank for the different effects. I think you can have like 3 on there, if I remember right. More Red Truck, yeah, that's a good one. The Boss ME80. The ME80 is amazing if you don't want anything fussy, because Boss designed that ME range really well, because they basically made it, as Jared has rightly said, they're amped whales. They're super tactile. There's no digital stuff. Each bank, so I think you have like a drive bank, modulation, delay, reverb, whichever order it is. There's just knobs on the top, so it's literally just like using real stomp boxes. So I do like that design factor as well, especially if you kind of want to gig with it and tweak it as you gig. That's a fantastic option. The ME50 was the one I remember, the big blue one, and I think the ME80 is kind of the new kid on the block in that sense. And they are bomb-proof. The ME stuff you just can't break. Secondhand HX Stomp or HX Effects. A HX Effects, now that's another good one as well. That's also a good one. You can pick those up secondhand for, I mean, I've seen a few of them go for probably as little as about $250. So the HX Effects is great. I've been tempted to buy one a few times when I've seen one come up, but because I have the Helix rack and I have the HX Stomp XL, I just don't see the point in buying the HX Effects, even though every time I see one come up, I'm like, do I want one? Do I not want one? The Zoom G series are good if you're a tweaker too. I had one of the G series once. I can't remember which one, the smallest one. The G10, I think it's called. I couldn't get a good sound out of it. I actually ended up sending it back. I bought it because I basically needed a cheap multi-effects for some last minute gigs where I couldn't take anything, basically. It was like an amp sim pedal and a multi-effects, and that was it. And I basically wanted the Zoom so I could have like a clean patch, a drive patch, and a lead patch, and that's literally all I needed. And I just could not get any sense out of it. Maybe it was me, but the one I tried, I'm pretty sure it was the G series, I could not get on with at all. But again, some people like tweaking and some people go deeper with the tweaking thing. I'm very much a plug and play kind of guy, so if it works out the box, I'm happy. I don't like to spend too much time kind of going too deep. The G3X, I've got the G3X. It was cheap, used, and a good headphone amp. Does the Van Halen tone well. I can't remember which one I had then. I'm pretty sure it was like the the G1 is the one that I bought. No, sorry. It wasn't the G1. It was the G10N. It was this thing. This is what I bought. The G1 So whatever this is, I didn't like it. I bought it and I just couldn't get any sounds out that I liked. And all I wanted it for was something really simple, and it just didn't work for me. It has amp sims built in as well. I think I even tried to use the amp sims, but again, yeah, didn't work for me. But the one you're talking about, the G3X, I think that's a little bit up the pecking order in that family. So I think it's the same system, but obviously there's a lot more going on there. You can tweak that way more. So that instantly looks easier to dial in, because obviously you've got different things for each channel, individual foot switches. That again, pretty good if you need something simple that you can just kind of tweak away. I see that it's discontinued on the website, so that would be a good indicator that you could probably pick one up quite cheap as well, because you can always get discontinued stuff for pretty cheap on eBay these days if you kind of shop around. I like that they plug in by USB and you can download other people's hard work. Yeah, there's that as well. That's one thing that's really cool about the Helix stuff, is that you can kind of share patches and presets as well. Really useful if you just want to get into the ballpark of something and you don't want to spend too long, you know, finding the tone. You can kind of just download someone else's patch and then tweak it to your need. I've done that myself when I've been trying to figure out something like a specific patch on, like, I did it a lot when I was dialing in patches for Blackstar. I was doing some stuff on the Silverline where I was working out different artist patches, and what I would do would be to download other people's patches and basically look at the cross section of how 10 other people dial in that tone. So if there was an artist I wasn't familiar with the sound of, I would download everyone's patches, look at what they do, and then think, right, what are these people doing? Listen to the track and try and figure out, right, 10 people have got the mid set like this, that must be about right. So patch sharing is pretty cool, because you can really dial in and kind of learn a lot as well. Marty McFly also works for Boulevard of Broken Dreams. For some reason, my chatbot has deleted Marty's message there, even though he didn't post a link. So I'm sorry about that, Marty. I don't know why. I don't know why the chatbot decided that you saying Boulevard of Broken Dreams was a link. I have no idea. But yeah, it would work for that as well. You are right. Depends what you're after as well. I've got an Axe-Fx Ultra on sale for $350. Still a cracker if you mostly need delays, reverbs, modulations. That's a good price though for an Axe-Fx. I mean, that's like the kind of the first generation stuff. But those tones still hold up, I think. I mean, obviously the modelling has gotten infinitely better these days with the stuff we have available now. But those first Axe-Fx, they were very much on the money at the time. So that's a great price for anyone who snaps one of those up. I think the Helix still sounds great as well. I know a lot of people say the Helix doesn't sound that realistic or whatever, but I've never set it up and thought that it didn't sound like what I wanted it to. So I think it's just how you set it up as well. I think different people have different ideas about what they want to dial in. So yeah, the Axe-Fx Ultra is a good one to look at as well. Amp modeling wise, the new UA stuff seems to be fantastic. Yeah, that is meant to be really good. I've seen Facebook has been demo central for those new UA pedals today. I haven't checked one out yet, but I mean, all the UA stuff's pretty good. I don't know anyone at UA though. I'd love to try one, but I just don't know anyone that works there. The oldest multi I've kept is an Ibanez PUE5 tube. Picked up for $10 at a flea market in America. Must dig it out. Very unique. The PUE5 tube. I'm going to Google that because that does sound really interesting. Oh wow. I've seen these things before. I've seen them crop up in various places. That is 80s-tastic. I love that. That is right up my street. Just because it's so dated. I love and hate simultaneously that the power cord is attached to the unit, because that is just not fun. especially these days, because everything is modular these days. So why any effects unit would have a power cord stuck to the unit, I don't know. Tube screamer, tube drive, digital delay, and an external loop, so you can put your own pedals in there. Digital delay, chorus, and pass, which I'm guessing is bypass. That's cool. I would be all over that thing. It's so 80s. Even those switches look awful. They look like they'd break after like a week on the road. There's multiple loops. Can you have multiple other... okay. No, there's different things. Output. So just one loop. Just one loop on there. And a tuner out. So I'm guessing when you put it in bypass mode, it maybe goes to the tuner. It's quite cool. Yeah, that's the sort of thing I'd really have fun with. Not for that price, though. Not for 400 quid. I don't think I would... Don't think I'd be tempted to drop that kind of money on it. If I found one for like £100, maybe. But, yeah, not for. That's way too much. Krenar, I used to gig with just a Zoom G3. Maybe it's just me then. Maybe I'm the only one who can't get a good sound out of a Zoom. Because I tried the G1 and I just didn't like it. But maybe it's a big difference to the G3 because there's a lot of love for the G3. I was just saying the more mini pedals are decent for getting certain sounds for covering songs. The more mini pedals are great. They're very much affordable, really easy to use, easy to dial in. I definitely think the more stuff is a good option. I'll get that out for you when you come around. It'll blow your socks off. A real tube-powered tube screamer. That's what interests me. See, it's actually a tube screamer with a tube. I know Ibanez actually did that recently. They had that one with the Korg Nano tube. But that one's actually got a proper, I think it just said a 12AX7. So that would sound really cool, actually. I'm looking forward to seeing that one. Andrew Talbot, would you recommend a Shergold Provocateur? I wanted a versatile guitar that could handle Tool to the Cure. Quite a wide range of stuff. I mean, I play the Provocateur a lot, so I would absolutely recommend it. From my point of view, they're great guitars. I will grab mine so we can talk about it. So you can get it in a couple of different configurations. I've got the humbucker and P90 version. So it's very versatile. Coil split on the bridge. What I like about it is it's kind of like a Telly, but it's also kind of like a Les Paul. So if you have the coil split on, this Seymour Duncan Pearly Gates, which is the Billy Gibbons PAF pickup, goes into a single coil mode. Then you're kind of in Telly territory. Got the nice P90 in the neck for some rounded sort of single coil tones, and then with the humbucker engaged, that's where we kind of go into Les Paul territory. So I'll give you an idea. So that's the P90. The P90 is really fat on this thing. The humbucker on the bridge is great. But because it's got that coil split the coils, middle position, bit of chorus on a clean tone, you get this. So in theory, you could go from Tool to the Cure with this thing. Obviously you've got that P90 in the neck as well, which is So like a fat single coil. It's actually quite a high output single coil in terms of volume. It's a loud pickup. It's actually pushing the amp a little bit more than I want it to. I actually want a very clean sound, and it's not quite giving me that. But yeah, these are very, very versatile. It can do all of those kind of fat rock tones, and obviously you can get quite clean, not when you're really hammering the amp like I am today. I've got the St. James's cranked into the 2 notes Captor X, so it's just on the verge of clipping. But if you put this into more headroom or an amp that's not completely juiced like that, you can get some really nice clean tones. I'm actually taking, not this Shergold, but my other Shergold away this week for some gigs. And that is this one. This is the other one in the line. This is the Masquerader. This is slightly more versatile in terms of switching options. So the Provocateur is kind of like a Tele Les Paul hybrid. You can get it, that configuration, which is humbucker P90, or you can get it humbucker. 3-way switch, coil split. Great, does all the Les Paul Tele kind of tones you need. This one, I got the 3 single coil version, 5-way switch. The bridge pickup is like a kind of a hot Tele pickup, and then we've got 2 vintage Stratty singles. This guitar is also available humbucker single, humbucker or humbucker P90. So this one has more options in terms of versatility as far as Shergold go. This is coming away with me this week. I'm off to the south of France to do some gigs, and this thing's coming along for the ride. This is the more versatile of the two. The Provocateur does what it does very well. Rock, cranked amp, kind of heavy rock stuff, bluesy stuff, great for that. It can do clean, but if I'm going to go clean and I'm using Shergold, I would go this one, just because it's got the extra versatility of the single coils. If they did a HSS version of that one, that would be really cool. Again, feel is a big thing in this as well though. This one, much fatter neck. The Provocateur has a slightly slimmer neck. It feels very PRS. So if you've ever played a PRS before, the Provocateur feels very much like that kind of neck size. The neck isn't a million miles away from the PRS that I own, whereas this thing is fat neck, kind of more like a vintage Tele. But yeah, if you're looking for more of the sleeker kind of feel, the Provocateur is the way to go. There's only one amp model in it that sounded good. I obviously didn't find that amp model because maybe I didn't look hard enough. The NuX MG30 is golden, sounds great. I want to get my hands on one of those. I haven't tried one, but I've heard they're good. But I am keen to hopefully get hold of one at some point. And as I was mentioning earlier, I've got the new Harley Benton Dnafx, which is like their take on the Helix Headrush kind of vibe. That's on the way, so that is same ballpark. That's meant to be pretty good. So I've got high hopes for that one as well. Thanks, Leigh. No problem, Andrew. Yeah, they're both great guitars, though. It just comes down to feel, I guess. But yeah, I definitely recommend one. They're great guitars. They're all of them are Indonesian made. Then they're all shipped to a place called Oswestry, which is in mid Wales, which is like 3 hours north of where I am. It's a really small village. And the distributor there also house a guitar builder called Patrick James Eggle. and he makes some insanely high-end $4,000 plus guitars, which are amazing guitars. Patrick actually owns the brand. So Shergold existed in the 70s. So for anyone who's into the history of the brand, they existed in the 70s. A lot of kind of new wave bands like Joy Division and New Order, they all used the Shergold stuff. They did a lot of 12 strings, a lot of guitars. They had one called the Modulator, which had like modules that you could plug in here with different effects. Like you could have like a fuzz module and you could turn fuzz on and off, and then you could have like a delay module and all that kind of stuff. And then because they were so 80s, the brand kind of faded and then they vanished. And then Patrick Eggle basically bought the brand and revived it with a few tweaks. So now all of these are Indonesian made, really high spec. They all come with Seymour Duncan pickups. You've got, you know, lock-in tuners. They use quite ornate woods for these as well. You get cool finishes, like this is a black sparkle finish, which that's why I gig this thing. I mean, that finish is designed for gigs. But yeah, they're made in Indonesia and they all get shipped to Oswestry in Mid Wales, and then Patrick and his team set them up basically before they go off to the stores. So even though they're mass produced in a way, they all have the final QC step done by basically a really well-known guitar builder and his team. So by the time they hit the shops, they're pretty much perfect. They even, minor detail that no one in the world cares about other than guitar players, but the serial numbers are written on in exactly the same way and the same font that Patrick writes them on his own guitars. So that's just a nice touch. They're handwritten serial numbers, so you know they've all been held by a person at some point that knows what they're doing. But yeah, these are really reliable, really dependable, and somehow they keep the price under £1,000, even though they've got all those extra steps. So yeah, I'd highly recommend checking out some Shergold stuff if you get the chance as well. Shergold were an offshoot of Heyman, which were an offshoot of Burns. Seriously cool lineage. Yeah, it is a cool lineage. It's a shame that the brand kind of sort of went, but then I guess at the same time, if they didn't finish the way they did, then we wouldn't have the new Shergolds, which are really cool. There's a couple of well-known players playing these as well. Jared especially will appreciate that one of Wales's most well-known guitar players, James Dean Bradfield from the Manic Street Preachers, is a Shergold user. And my friend at Shergold actually told me that James actually bought his Shergold. Obviously, we all know the way you know, marketing works these days. You have big artists who play guitars. They're often given those guitars to place the guitars in front of an audience. James actually bought his guitar. He walked into a store in a place called Pontypridd called A Strings. Walked in, tried one, loved it, and actually just bought it with his own money. And then he contacted Shergold to tell them how much he loved the guitar. So that kind of speaks to how good they are as well. Like the guy from the Manic Street Preachers was happy to go in and buy one with his own money, no affiliation with the brand, and take it out on tour. And it's a sub £1,000 guitar. So they're great. A lot of guitar for the money. The Japanese guitar boom killed the original Shergold brand, sadly. I played his Shergold before he did. That's, if only that was the other way around, that would be like, you know, then you've played James Dean Bradfield Shergold. But as that stands, he's played your Shergold. He owned it after you. Even though your moment with the guitar was quite a small one. But yeah, they're great guitars, and I just think for the money, they're really, really reliable. I trust this thing a lot. I take it out all the time to gig. It holds tune well, sounds great, really versatile. That hot telly bridge pickup kind of gets you into humbucker territory. Maybe we'll do a live stream soon when we just geek out on these things, because there's a lot of cool stuff to talk about with Shergold. So maybe that'll be something to do soon. But yeah, so I'm gonna get out of here now, guys. We've been going for about 2 hours now. I think it's 10 PM in the UK. So depending on where else in the world you're watching, I know you guys over in Europe, it's even later. So yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging out for 2 hours tonight. So next week, there isn't going to be a stream. I'm not here next week. I'm actually leaving on Saturday, and I'm going to be in the south of France doing some gigs. We're driving to like the far east of England to a place called Kent, playing a gig there Saturday night, getting the Channel Tunnel 7 a.m. Sunday morning to the north of France. We've got an 11-hour drive from the north to the south of France. Then we've got a day off. When we get there, we'll need it because the Sunday is just going to be spent in the van. Then we've got 2 gigs on Tuesday, so I'm going to be playing all day at, I don't even know where, just outside Montpellier. Don't even know what the venue is. I haven't actually asked. I should ask. We're playing a couple of gigs there, and then we've got a 12-hour drive, a 16-hour drive home the next day, which we're doing in one go. South of France to South Wales. It's about 11 hours from the south.
I found this on the web.
My Siri wants to help. It's about 11 hours from the south of France to the north of France. Then it's like an hour on the tunnel, and then from the Channel Tunnel to South Wales, it's like 5 hours. So whatever that total works out as, that's where I'm going to be next week, basically. So no stream next week, but I'll be back the week after. Ironically, I played some Manix tunes on it too. Next week, no guitar talk, just wine tasting. I mean, in theory, yes, but I don't drink. So the wine tasting's a little bit lost on me. But I'm sure I'll watch people taste wine. I'm sure I'll be seeing a lot of drunk people, but I personally won't be drunk. My competitive drinking days are long behind me. I'm too old for hangovers now. But it'll be fun though. It's different. I've not actually played in France before, so that'll be really cool. I'm actually going to be... I'm not going to promise this, but I'm planning on filming pretty much the whole trip. So if there's anything you guys want to see specifically from the trip, let me know. I've got this plan in my head of how it's going to come out. It's basically just going to be a vlog, week on the road. Hopefully I've got plenty of time to film as much stuff as I want. I've got a bunch of ideas already about what I'm going to film, but I'm going to be posting on Instagram over the next few days and while I'm away, just asking what you guys want to see as well. So if there's things you want me to capture on the road, things like the gear setups that we're going to use, you know, general travel vlogs, whatever you guys might want to see from the trip, let me know and I'll do my best to capture that as well. And then when I'm back, then I'll edit all that together into a kind of a week on the road video. Neither do I, teetotal guitarists unite. I didn't used to be teetotal, as you know. I used to be a very competitive drinker, but I'm just not into it anymore. I just got to that point where I just realised that it was a little bit less productive than what I wanted it to be. And I'm someone who likes to keep busy, so the thought of spending a day in bed with a hangover, it just doesn't work for me anymore. I would just much rather not drink and just drink lots of coffee and get work done. Boring, but that's what gets me through the day. But yes, so there's going to be an imminent travel blog, so let me know what you guys might want to see on the road. It's going to be a lot of time in the van, so if you guys are interested in the inside of a van, I can promise you at least 18 hours of footage of that if you really want it. But yeah, we'll be at a couple of different venues. We're doing a full band set, we're doing an acoustic set. We'll be at a hotel for 3 days. We're having a day off, so there's plenty of stuff that I could film. Talk about guitars, talk about the gear that I'm using on the road. I'm using a really scaled back rig, all on in-ears. We can talk about the PA system if you want. There's going to be loads of cool stuff. So let me know either in the comments of this live stream or get in touch on socials. I'm going to be posting some Instagram stuff about that as well. So let me know. And yeah, thank you guys as always. I think this has been our longest stream yet. We're over 2 hours now. So I think we've broken a new record. I think last week we were close. I think we did like 1 hour and 50 last week. And now we've pushed the 2 hour mark. So yeah, we're extending. But yeah, thank you guys for hanging out for 2 hours. It's been a lot of fun. And yeah, as always, there's some links down below, some stuff you can click, support the channel in whichever way you want. Don't forget to hit the thumb. My chat bot has been telling you to hit the thumb throughout tonight. So hopefully you guys have given it the thumbs up as well. It helps the magical algorithm realize that we exist. So please do that. Tell your friends to come to the next vlog, or the next live stream, not the next vlog. But yeah, no live stream next week. So I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Thanks as always, and I'll see you guys very soon. And Dennis has just joined, so I'm going to say a quick hello to Dennis. Be safe and have a great trip. Me too, no drinking anymore, don't like the hangover. Yeah, I'm with you, Dennis, I'm with you. Being hungover takes time away from playing guitar, and also, it's so much more money to buy guitar stuff with. Why would you not want that? I think that's a good leave-in thought, isn't it? If we give up drinking, we can buy more guitars. See you guys in a few weeks, and yeah, let me know what you want to see on the road. See you soon.